are you? The perplexing question from the Cheshire Cat and Alice in Wonderland is our question today on Ask Andrew. I am your host, Andrew Ledet, coach, partner, musician, and one-time thespian. My heart started thumping in my chest as the individuals near me gave their introductions. Soon I would have to give my 30-second intro, but there was one small issue. I hadn't thought about what I'd say until I sat down at that large square of tables. Today we will play with different games to help you build an intro with impact. Intros range from job interviews to meeting new colleagues to what you say to clients. If you are a manager, stay tuned to the end. These games can help your team tinker with their bios to speak confidently about what they do. First, as we do every week, let's pause a few minutes to ponder the existential question of who we are. If you're able to, feel free to close your eyes, minimize whatever you had. Maybe minimize the stuff first, then close your eyes, unless you're that good. But we'll take an inhale together. And exhale. And we'll take one more just like that. Big inhale, fill up. And let it all go. Today we'll be shining a light on some of those things that make us uniquely us, as we have in previous weeks. So for today's meditation, as we inhale, let's think about all those unique things, or maybe just think about one thing that you think is unique to you. See yourself doing that thing. Who was with you? Where were you? What did you feel like when you did that thing? And exhale. Inhale and exhale. Introductions can be stressful things. When I was thinking and writing about this and writing my own, I was feeling some of those feelings of not wanting to brag about things or not wanting to talk about myself too much. So those are very common feelings that we have at times when introducing ourselves, very normal feelings. But sometimes how do we help people get to know us if we don't talk about ourselves to some degree, if we don't celebrate those achievements in our lives? So today we'll think about some of those moments and find ways to frame them in a way that is authentic to us and exciting to those that hear it. So on our next inhale, let's take a big stretch up to the sky. Wiggle those fingers and wiggle them on down as you let it go. One more big breath together. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4. Today we will cover 5 main areas: types of introductions, key ingredients for a stellar intro, what to avoid, games to help form your blurb, and finally, how to practice your pitch. First, let's talk about types of intros. There are a few ways I think about this.
Hello, my name is Leslie Nope, and I work for the Parks and Recreation Department. Can I ask you a few questions?
I'm Winston Wolfe. I solve problems.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Before pulling out your resume or CV, I like to start by thinking about the audience. Before we get to who you are, let's think about who you are talking with. I love the think, feel, do framework that I mentioned on a previous podcast for this exercise as well. Who will you be speaking with? What do you know about them? What do you want them to think after you've finished your intro? What do you want them to feel, do, if anything? The answers to these 3 questions will help shape what you include or exclude. If you're speaking with an HR manager in an interview, what do you want them to think, feel, do after you're done talking? If you're introducing yourself to a client, what do you want them to think, feel, do? What about a neighbor or a teacher at a child's school? There's a worksheet in the description for today's podcast that will help you map out some of those details to prep for these intros or conversations. The second thing I recommend thinking about is time management. At some point in your life, you've experienced the rambler. Maybe you have been the rambler. I know I have been. This is the person who gives their life story like it's a Ken Burns special on PBS. We'll explore some don'ts in a little bit, but the idea here is to think about how to get your point across in as few words as possible. Think of the showbiz adage, leave them wanting more. Our second area for today, key ingredients for a stellar intro. The event last week was 50 plus individuals introducing themselves. Watching and listening to all the different styles reminded me of the beautiful ways we are all unique. Selfishly, I love it when someone's intro helps me get to know them and inspires me to find them after those intros to learn more. A few people used humor in their intros. Others connected their intro to those of other people in the same field that spoke previously. Whatever you choose, make it authentic to who you are. Let's pretend for a second we're on a cooking show. What are the key ingredients that make you you? Which of those ingredients should you share in this communication? Basic intros tend to have 6 main parts: a name, a title or occupation, what the person does, what you do, a company or organization, where you do that thing. Fourth, accomplishments or experience. Highlight one of your most notable accomplishments or areas of expertise. Fifth, common interests. If you know of any shared interests from your research before this introduction that connects you to the person you're talking to or the group you're talking to, mention those to create a bond. And sixth, the last basic intro component, personal qualities. Optionally, you can mention a positive personal quality or interest that you have. I'm reminded of a screenwriting course I took in college. Most stories are told in a chronological order. Similarly, most intros are told in this same way. But what if you rearrange those pieces of your intro to add more intrigue, more dynamics? Fun idea to play with. A few questions of things that could add some spice into your stew. What are you uniquely skilled at doing? What do you love to do? How can you help the audience? How can they help you? Third area for our focus today, what to avoid. 7 things. Rambling. Keep it succinct. A well-told story keeps moving forward. The intro also, it's not your TED Talk, so keep it to the highlights you want others to know about you or things you want to talk more about after. Number 2, avoid jargon or technical language. Always a trip up. Third, avoid being the captain of complaints. Unless you are Lewis Black, which again, I don't think he's listening to this. If he is, great, drop me a note. Most people don't love hearing complaints. Aim to keep it positive. Fourth, all work and no play. Depending on the setting, being super formal may not help form bonds with others. Explore infusing your intro with something uniquely you. Fifth, avoid being the opera singer. Me, 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 me. How can you help others without expecting immediate returns? Another part of this is to be curious about others. What can you learn about others or industries? Super Communicators is a new book that shares research about differentiators for those who perceive others as great communicators. One big difference the research shows is the amount of questions great communicators ask. Think about what you can learn when others are introducing themselves. Avoid the weak finish. Remember that do part of the think, feel, do? What do you want the audience to do? Find you after to chat about what? Help you with the next steps to blank. Ask for what you want in your intro. If there's something that you're looking for help on or that you want to help people with, include that as a tagline at the end of your intro. The final thing to avoid, waiting for the phone to ring. Be proactive. Send thank you notes to everyone you met and share one thing you learned from them. Demonstrating active listening is an oddly rare skill that can differentiate you and help build a relationship. All right, time for some playtime. Here are 5 ideas to spark the creative flow of writing your intro. I know when I was preparing for this today, there were some moments that just felt like friction. It felt like Velcro peeling apart that were uncomfortable to write or think about when introducing myself. Here are some ideas to get past that. Write your intro in the third person. Andrew was born in a small hut. Buzzer. The strike there is avoiding that. Number 1, don't necessarily start at the beginning of time. But this third person component can free you up if you don't like talking about yourself by creating some space in your narrative. Number 2 idea to have some fun. Make it the most braggy possible. If you dislike talking about yourself or this feels super braggy, take a draft at making the most over-the-top version. What would that intro look like? What voice would you use for that intro? Third idea to play. Tell the story backward or out of sequence. This is a fun workaround to avoid telling a chronological history. It may also help you highlight the biggest event or events to share instead of sharing all of them. Number 4, draw it out. Do you think in pictures? Some people do. Get some colored pencils or markers and draw what is important to you. This can use other parts of your brain to tap into your core ingredients that make you, you. 5, write it as a poem. Words can be tricky, forming long sentences or run-on sentences. Try poems. Bonus if you write a haiku, since it forces efficiency in your word choices. Number 6, the final playtime idea. Ask others for their input. How would they introduce you? Outsource that work. Final topic for today, how to practice your pitch. I have 4 ideas for you. I don't love practicing speeches. I, however, love the idea of improvisation. But as I've learned through studying jazz, improvised doesn't equal being unprepared. Here are options to practice your intro or your pitch. First, write it down. This could be a script or just big outlined ideas, whatever makes you most comfortable to share your intro with others. Number 2, record and listen to it. What parts stuck out to you? Were you more or less excited about some bits? If you remove yourself for a moment and think about what questions you'd ask that person based on the intro, what would you be curious about? Do you want to know more about them? Third, keep a timer. Big networking events will likely give you a time guidance, 30-second intro, or keep it to a few minutes. My general guidance from my experience interviewing people, keep your intro to less than a minute. If you've written your intro, that's less than 150 words. The other idea here too, offshoot of the timer, have a couple different versions. Have a 30-second version or a 1-minute version. So based on that, you're prepared either way. 4th tip to practice, share it with a mentor or friend. Ask for input and feedback. How would your colleagues and friends introduce you? What do they think are your greatest traits? Similar to the other way to play. I promised a tip for managers. Bring this idea of working on intros to a team meeting. Helping your team with their confidence, storytelling, and brevity are great ways you can mentor them on their hero's journey. Another way I loved using this was having a shared document where everyone could put their bios, their intros. And then when new people join the team, not only could they read about their peers, but they could also be inspired by what other people's formats were or types of storytelling. So keep that as a to-do for new hires after you've run this exercise. My passion is in sparking creativity and incorporating playfulness into routines. I'm Andrew Ledet, and I have led teams in the tech field. I find joy in discovering new and efficient paths through or around roadblocks. I empower ambitious individuals and budding leaders to define and realize their goals. If this sounds like you or someone you know, I'd love to learn more and see if I could help. Please drop me a note to set a time for us to meet and play. Beyond my coaching endeavors, I am dedicated to the perpetual pursuit of becoming a more proficient musician. That is it for today. It's a bit shorter for us, but I hope this gave you ideas on how to introduce yourself, and most importantly, a reminder of some of the many things that make you unique. Play with these ideas and feel free to share your braggiest intro in the voice of a stadium announcer with me. Until next time, take care.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such nature films as Earwigs, Ooh!